They say the fog in San Francisco has a name. Carl. People think it's cute. They make Instagram accounts for it. They buy merchandise. They joke about how it ruins their view of the Golden Gate. But they don't work in it. They don't drive a 24-foot box truck through it at 3 a.m. when the city is dead and the streetlights are just blurry halos floating in the gray soup. I do. I deliver bread. Sourdough, Dutch crunch, baguettes. It sounds wholesome, right? The smell of fresh, baked bread. The quiet morning? It's not. There are rules to the night shift that aren't in the employee handbook. Rule number 1. If you're crossing the Bay Bridge and the fog turns a bruised shade of purple, do not look at the water. Rule number 2. If the radio starts playing a song that sounds like it's being sung backward, drive faster. And rule number 3. The rule I broke last night. Never ever open the back of the truck if the cargo starts moving on its own, because sometimes the yeast rises a little too much. And sometimes what you're delivering isn't bread anymore. My name is Leo, and I drive for Bay Area Baking Company. It's a thankless job. You start at midnight, load up the racks at the industrial kitchen in the dog patch, and then spend the next 6 hours dodging drunk drivers and raccoons. The truck is an old International, a rattle trap that smells permanently of diesel and yeast. It's a heavy, warm smell. Usually I like it. It smells like life. But last night was different. The fog was heavy. Not just the usual mist that rolls in over Twin Peaks. This was a wall. A thick, wet blanket that muffled every sound. When I walked out to the loading dock, I couldn't even see the gate 10 feet away. The air tasted metallic, like I was chewing on a piece of aluminum foil. I loaded the crates. 100 loaves of sourdough. 50 baguettes. Trays of croissants. The routine is soothing. Lift, slide, lock. Lift, slide, lock. But as I pushed the last rack in, I felt a shiver. The back of the truck was dark, obviously, but it felt deep. Like the cargo space went back further than it should have. I shook it off. Just tired, I told myself. Too much caffeine, not enough sleep. I slammed the roll-up door shut, locked it, and climbed into the cab. The drive through the city was slow. The fog was so thick, I had to lean forward, nose almost touching the windshield, just to see the lane markers. I made my drops in a mission, then headed for the on-ramp to the Bay Bridge. I had 5 stops in Oakland and Berkeley. The Bay Bridge is weird at night. It's a double-decker bridge. Eastbound traffic goes on the bottom deck. It feels like a tunnel, enclosed by steel girders and concrete. It's claustrophobic even on a sunny day. In this fog, it felt like driving into the throat of a monster. I hit the bridge at 2:45 a.m. There was no one else on the road. Just me and the endless gray swirl in my headlights. The hum of the tires on the metal grating was hypnotic. Hoar thump, hoar thump. About halfway across, right near the Treasure Island exit, the truck sputtered. My stomach dropped. No, not here. Please, not here. The engine coughed, the RPMs dropped to 0, and the power steering died. I wrestled the heavy wheel, coasting the silent truck into the emergency breakdown lane on the right. I sat there for a moment in the silence. The fog was pressing against the windows. I could hear the water of the bay churning hundreds of feet below me, unseen. I tried the key. Click, click, click. Starter motor dead. Great. Just great. I grabbed my phone to call dispatch, but of course, no signal. The steel structure of the lower deck blocks everything. I was stuck. I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes, trying to keep my cool. That's when I heard it. It came from the back of the truck. Thump. A soft, heavy sound, like a sack of flour falling over. I frowned. I strapped those racks down tight. Nothing should be falling. Thump. Scrape. My skin went cold. That was the sound of a bread rack sliding across the metal floor. I sat up, staring at the rearview mirror. I couldn't see the back of the truck through the partition, but I could hear it. The sound was distinct. It sounded like something was walking back there. Something heavy. I checked my side mirrors. Maybe someone was trying to break in, but the locks were intact, and we were in the middle of a bridge, suspended over the ocean. There was nowhere for a thief to come from. I grabbed the tire iron I keep under the seat. I didn't want to go back there, but I'm responsible for the cargo. If a raccoon or a rat got in while I was loading, I had to get out before it ruined the shipment. I opened the driver's door. The cold air hit me instantly. It was wet and smelled wrong. It didn't smell like the ocean. It smelled like fermentation, like sour milk and rotting fruit. I walked to the back of the truck, the tire iron heavy in my hand. The fog was swirling around my ankles. I could barely see the taillights of my own vehicle. I stood at the back door. The handle was cold and slick with condensation. I put my ear against the metal. Silence. Then a voice. A whisper coming from inside the truck. It's rising. I jumped back, heart hammering. It sounded like me. It sounded like my own voice, but distorted, like it was coming through water. Who's in there? I shouted, gripping the iron. Come out. I'm armed. Silence again. Then the truck shook. Violently. The suspension groaned as something threw itself against the side walls. Bam! 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 It sounded like a dozen people were trapped in there, pounding on the walls. I fumbled for the padlock key. I know. Every horror movie rule says don't open the door. But this was my truck. My job. Panic makes you do stupid things. I thought maybe someone had snuck in at the depot and was suffocating. I unlocked the padlock. I grabbed the handle. I threw the roll-up door open. I expected to see a stowaway. I expected to see a raccoon. I didn't expect to see the dough. The racks were gone. Or rather, they were covered. An explosion of dough had erupted from the crates. It wasn't normal dough. It was gray, pulsating, and veiny. It filled the entire cargo space, a wall of expanding, bubbling slime. It looked like a giant, cancerous lung breathing in the darkness. And stuck in the dough were faces. They were molded out of the flour and water, but they were moving, mouths opening and closing in silent screams. Eyes made of air bubbles blinking at me. And the smell. It hit me like a physical blow. It was the smell of yeast, but magnified 1,000 times. It smelled like biological growth, rapid and unchecked. One of the dough faces pushed itself forward. It looked like my boss, Gary. Help! The dough mouth formed the word. It burns. I stood there, paralyzed. The mass was expanding. It was oozing over the bumper, dripping onto the asphalt near my boots. Then the fog around me shifted. I heard a car door slam. I spun around. Parked behind me in the emergency lane was another truck. It looked exactly like mine. Same make, same model, same Bay Area Baking Company logo. But the driver got out. He was wearing my uniform. He was wearing my hat. He walked toward me through the fog. I raised the tire iron. Stay back. He stepped into the light of the taillights. It was me. It was literally me. Same face. Same stubble. Same scar on the chin from when I fell off a bike when I was 7. The other me looked at the mass of dough in my truck. He looked sad. You broke the seal, Leo, he said. His voice was flat. Dead. Were you? I stammered, backing away toward the bridge railing. I'm the delivery, he said. And so are you. The dough behind me lunged. A tendril of the gray, sticky mass shot out and wrapped around my ankle. It was warm. It pulsed against my skin. I screamed and swung the tire iron. It sank into the dough with a wet thwack. It didn't hurt it. The dough just swallowed the metal, pulling it from my grip. The other Leo walked closer. He didn't attack me. He just watched. It's the yeast, he explained calmly. It's ancient. We found it under the city. It needs to feed. It needs a driver. The dough was pulling me in now. I was sliding across the asphalt. I clawed at the ground, my fingernails breaking on the grit. I looked over the railing. The black water was hundreds of feet down. It was suicide. Where was the dough? I looked at the other Leo. He was smiling now, a smile that stretched too wide, his skin tearing like overproof bread. Join the batch, he whispered. I didn't think. I scrambled to my feet, kicked my boot off to escape the grip of the dough, and I ran. I ran into traffic. A semi-truck was barreling down the center lane, its horn blaring like the trumpet of doom. I dove into the left lane, the wind of the passing rig nearly knocking me over. I ran. I ran all the way to the Treasure Island exit. I ran until my lungs burned and my socks were shredded. I found a security guard at the gate. I was raving. I was screaming about bread monsters and doppelgangers. He called the cops. They thought I was on drugs. They took me to the hospital. When the tow truck went to get my vehicle, it was empty. No dough, no racks, just a clean, empty box truck. The engine started right up. They fired me, obviously, abandoning company property. Psychotic break. I tried to move on. I got a job at a warehouse, working days. I stay away from bakeries. I stay away from bridges. But here's the thing. I live in a small apartment in Oakland now, and the walls are thin. Last night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I heard it. Thump. Inside the wall. Scrape. And then, a smell. The faint, sweet, warm smell of sourdough rising. I went to the kitchen. I put my ear against the drywall. I could hear breathing. Wet, heavy breathing. And then a whisper. Leo, we're still hungry. I looked at my hand. There was a small patch of skin on my wrist that looked puffy, pale. I poked it. It didn't feel like flesh. It felt like dough. And when I pressed my finger into it, the indentation didn't bounce back immediately. I think I brought it with me. Or maybe I didn't escape. Maybe the Leo that ran away was the wrong one. Maybe I'm the one made of dough, and I'm just waiting to be baked. So listen to me. If you live in the Bay Area, and you buy a loaf of sourdough, and it smells a little too yeasty, or if you slice into it, and it sighs, don't eat it. Throw it away. Burn it. Because the fog is coming back tonight, and I can feel myself rising.